Three. Good afternoon. Welcome to our interview with exceptional leaders in Homeland Security. To honor Women's History Month, Women in Homeland Security and Homeland Security Today have partnered to introduce you to some of the women who are leading, innovating, and breaking down all barriers in the Homeland Security community. My name is Clona White, and I'm from UC San Diego. I currently work at HS Today as an assistant editor, and I am exploring the field of Homeland Security. When our team was charged with putting together our features for Women's History Month, we decided that asking some of our emerging leaders to conduct the interviews was a way to introduce them to established leaders and provide exceptional mentoring all in the same. With that, I am extremely proud to continue this series with Chief Carla Provost, the first female chief of the U.S. Border Patrol. Chief Provost served in the Border Patrol for more than 20 years with positions in El Paso, Texas, and El Centro, California. After retiring in 2020, she became an executive consultant at her firm, Honor First LLC. Welcome, Chief Provost.
Thank you so much, Colleen. I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Of course, and I have to say the same. So can you tell us a little bit about your position as Chief of the Border Patrol? Is that the job that you wanted when you were younger?
You know, I have to say, I grew up in the Midwest in Kansas in a very, very small town. So right in the middle of the country. And I have to admit, I knew nothing about the Border Patrol. Now, I went into, when I went to college at Kansas State University, I went into a criminal justice major, and I thought I wanted in federal. And at that time, I thought, well, I want to be an FBI agent or a DEA agent or something. And I graduated and I joined the Riley County Police Department and was enjoying my work there, but I still really wanted in federal. I was going through the hiring process with the U.S. Marshals and was almost through, and they had a hiring freeze. And it was a U.S. Marshal who told me about the Border Patrol. He said, hey, the Border Patrol's hiring, you should put in. I knew nothing about the Border Patrol. And I truly thought, well, I'll put in and I can use it for a stepping stone to move on to something at that time when I was in my early 20s, I thought was bigger and better. And I got into the Border Patrol in January of 95, and 1 year in, I swore I'd never leave. I just fell in love with the organization. I mean, that really is what happened.
That's amazing. What do you consider your greatest accomplishments while you were there?
Well, I would have to say, probably as the chief, the last 3 years were pretty tough on the Border Patrol. The politicalization of the organization was like no other time in the history of the agency. It was tough on the men and women out on the front line who were put under so much stress, doing a very difficult job to protect the country, and getting drawn into the politics and a lot of false rhetoric out there on what the men and women were doing. It was tough. And it was a challenge and an accomplishment, I think, being able to be the voice for the men and women of the Border Patrol and to try to cut through some of that false rhetoric out there and to get in front of Congress and get to tell them what was really going on the border and what the men and women were doing and the sacrifices that they were making and trying to care for families and children at the same time, trying to deal with drug smugglers and bad people trying to do bad things coming across the border. It really was a challenging time. It still is for the men and women. But I think being able to be that voice and at least try to cut through that false rhetoric and get the truth out there to folks that were willing to listen. Not everybody's always willing to listen, but to those willing to listen, whether it was an accomplishment or not, I don't know, but it was certainly an honor to be able to do that for the men and women on the front line.
Definitely. I know that the past couple of years, the Border Patrol has definitely been put under a lot of scrutiny, fair or unfair. Do you consider that like one of the greatest challenges, the politicization of it?
Definitely. And it's law enforcement in general, it's tough times, right, across the board. And transparency is important. It really is for all law enforcement agencies to be as transparent as they possibly can. And it's unfortunate if there's one bad apple, because in every career and every job out there, there are good teachers, bad teachers, good doctors, bad doctors, but I think for the law enforcement professionals and the Border Patrol particularly, that scrutiny out there and false information and one person does something wrong and you're all bad, it's tough. It's tough for the men and women. And I hate to see some of that rhetoric that was out there, that's still out there and is just so incorrect, because I've stood, in all of the different sectors, the 20 different sectors that the Border Patrol has, and the multiple stations, and I've watched the men and women and the sacrifices they make, and where they're truly trying to do good. They're trying to protect the country. They're trying to take care of children, which isn't their job to do, and was never their job to do, to the best of their ability, with extremely limited resources and limited support. So definitely a tough challenge out there, but I'm so proud of the men and women as they continue to rise to the occasion and do the best they can with the limited resources they have. But I would say in my 25-year career would be the biggest challenge that I faced, and that I feel the men and women are facing.
And what qualities do you see in yourself that helped you overcome those challenges?
Well, I like to think that I'm a people person and that I was always approachable. And I live to support the frontline men and women. And, when there's kind of a saying, once a PA, always a PA, meaning a patrol agent. And it wasn't about being the chief of the Border Patrol. It was about, I'm a Border Patrol agent. I spent 25 years as a Border Patrol agent. And throughout my career, and as I moved up and as I was dealing with people, I never expected to be having to testify in front of Congress or go on national media and talk about the challenges. That was certainly not something that I was looking for. But I did it to the best of my ability in my time in office. And I think my people skills certainly helped with that. And I love people. I love the Border Patrol. I love the mission. I love the men and women that are out there, really, truly putting their lives on the line to protect all of us.
Can I ask, just out of curiosity, how is testifying before Congress? I would imagine that's very intimidating.
Not fun. No. I say that, all kidding aside. It's important, right? It's important to have the opportunity to get up there and speak on behalf of the men and women on the front lines. At the same time, it's challenging, right? Because politics is not my thing, but it is part of the world that we live in. And the Border Patrol is they don't make the laws; they enforce the laws. And sometimes it's reminding our members, our elected officials, that, hey, if you want to change something, that's on you to change those laws, right? You are the decision makers. You're the lawmakers. We are the ones enforcing those laws that you placed on the books. And sometimes they need a reminder, and getting that opportunity to go do that, and also getting the opportunity to go talk to them about the things that the men and women truly need, and to try to cut through the politics, because it's about the safety, security of our country. And it is about dealing with a crisis that is going on worldwide when it comes to immigration. And obviously spent 28 years in law enforcement, and I believe in the rule of law. But at the same time, I don't think the blame goes to those who are enforcing the law. If people want change, then it's those policymakers and those lawmakers that need to make those changes. And getting the opportunity to speak in front of them, though challenging at times, is certainly very important.
And was that something that gave you a lot of personal satisfaction, or what was one thing that kind of kept you at your job when it was the hardest?
Definitely the men and women kept me there when it was the hardest, and the mission. It truly is a mission when we talk about this country. And I am an avid patriot. You see me, I still have my flags behind me, because I was raised, in a household that taught me how lucky we are to be here, in such a great country, and my passion for the United States, and then the mission of CBP and of the Border Patrol to try to protect it. And then, as I said, I spent 25 years working with over 20,000 people, and I was always so impressed with the men and women and how they would go above and beyond anything that they were ever expected to do to try to do the right thing. So that's what kept me motivated through all of the stress, the men and women and the mission.
It's funny, my mom, her motto for for her company is "It's about mission," and she has these little buttons that they wear, and I mean, growing up, I kind of understood it, but I was little, so I didn't really understand it, but hearing you say that, I wanna give her a shout out for
You
also
better then.
instilling that
Yes,
in me.
definitely.
Yeah, cutting through all the politics. So getting away from all of the super challenging things that you had to deal with as chief, who were your role models throughout your career?
Oh my gosh. Well, so many. Now I have to start with my biggest role models first and foremost were my parents. I wouldn't have a career without them. I was raised in a household with two other siblings, a brother and a sister, and we were all raised that you can do anything you want to do, but no matter what you do the best at it that you can. You know, if you make a decision that this is the route you're going, you do the best job that you possibly can do at it. And they just set that standard in me from a young age. Work hard and be kind to people and do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Uh, Within the Border Patrol, though, so many great leaders. Ron Colburn, first and foremost, who was the retired deputy chief of the Border Patrol. I worked for him in Tucson and Yuma sectors, and he was one of those types of leaders. And he started up the Border Patrol Foundation, which I know you were familiar with as well, who was about the men and women, the mission and the men and women, just what we were talking about. And he was certainly somebody who influenced me throughout my career and as the type of leader that I wanted to be. So he set the standard. I worked for so many great leaders like David Aguilar and Mike Fisher and Ron Vitello. Um, and then there were the women who paved the way too. And across CBP, not just in Border Patrol, there's Lynn Underdown, who was the first female chief patrol agent out in the field. I didn't get to know her well until later in my career and around the time that she retired, but she certainly paved the way. And then Brenda Smith, who happens to be the executive assistant commissioner for the Office of Trade. I've had the opportunity to work with Brenda over the years, and she's just a wonderful human being, a great leader, a strong female leader that helped me in an organization that is predominantly male. You know, so having those examples. And I go back to family. I have an older sister who is just an amazing person and is out in the private sector and in the world of industry and has gone so far herself in her career. And I was 4 years younger than her, and growing up watching her and learning from her throughout my career. She was an amazing, has and still is an amazing role model for me.
That's amazing. You were the first female chief of the Border Patrol. So do you think there are specific challenges that you faced specifically because you were a woman?
Oh, that's a great question and tough. I always tell people, and if you've ever heard me speak before, I was blessed in the Border Patrol because in the Border Patrol, you're an agent. You're not a female agent or a male agent. Everybody goes through the same training and comes up together, and that teamwork is instilled in you from the beginning. And I was just always a Border Patrol agent, not a female Border Patrol agent. And I think that's a good thing. But at the same time, it can be tough. The Border Patrol is 5% women. And I certainly think women bring a lot to the table because we think differently than men. And we certainly talk a lot more. At least that's what they always tell me. But, you know, I think it's a benefit too. The Border Patrol's my family, and I have a lot of brothers and sisters in that family. And I never felt like it was um, more challenging for me to become the chief of the Border Patrol. And it really wasn't something that I sought out. And sometimes I think that's the best. People who really, really just, I want that position because I want to be the chief of the Border Patrol. I'm not sure that they're always the right person to be in that leadership position. It's sometimes the people that don't seek it out, that are just out there doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do and supporting, and then the promotions come. And that has been my experience. That was my experience throughout my career. I was blessed to just have opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. As I said, I was a small town girl And I really, DC is not the area I wanted to be in. I loved being in the field. I loved being a field agent, a field chief. And it wasn't something that I sought out. But at the same time, I'm very, very proud to have gotten to have that opportunity and to be able to represent the men and women as their chief. It was such an honor. So I don't know if I totally answered your question, but it really, I've been blessed, really, truly blessed.
I think you did. I really think you did. It's interesting what you said about kind of the positions coming to you, because that's definitely been my experience. And that like other people might see qualities in yourself that you don't necessarily see.
Yes.
And sometimes that's also the most rewarding when other people notice things about you that you don't yourself. But how did you balance such high-powered positions with your personal life? Did you have self-care days?
Oh my gosh, no, what's a self-care day? No, I'm just joking. Uh, well, I'd love to tell you I balanced it great. I didn't. I gained a lot of weight, which I've been working on, and feel so much healthier now. I won't. I'm not going to deny it. It's tough. It's tough to balance. It's tough to balance days that turn into 14 and 16-hour days, and weekends are not weekends, and I have a daughter, I have a teenage daughter, and there were certainly sacrifices there. I am blessed to have an amazing family and amazing support in that realm, and friends too. But it's tough. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It is not easy, and I know you know this because of knowing your mother. It is hard, and it takes hard work, and it can be stressful. You need to make the time. I didn't do a great job of that always, and my health suffered a little bit. And that's something I've been focusing on in the last year since I've been out, and I'm feeling a lot better and doing great in that aspect. But it does get tough, and you do need to make time for yourself. You have to make time for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones. And you've got to take care of yourself and how you eat and exercise and all of those things. It's important. It's just too important. I've seen too many people literally work themselves to death, and it's tragic when you see that. So that work-life balance is important. I think you'll find it hard to find too many people that say they're great at it, at least while they're doing the job. But any time that you can get, any time for yourself that you can get, even if it's the smallest of 5 minutes alone in your office of quiet time, which rarely happened. You've got to take it where you can and make sure that you're exercising and eating right, and never forget the family, because that's your biggest support.
Definitely. I know my mom definitely utilized her family support growing up. Um, so, what is your last piece of advice for someone like me who's a little bit unsure of a career path, unsure? I'm approaching 21. Is there something that you wish you'd known at 21 that some wisdom you can impart on me?
Well, oh my gosh, you're so young. It's so awesome too. That's great. I will tell you this: don't be afraid to make mistakes. When I think back to myself at your age, which was a very long time ago, though it goes by fast, it doesn't seem like it in certain aspects. I think you have to realize you're going to make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. I was very hard on myself when I would make a mistake, and I struggled with that. And I think if I could go back, I'd tell myself, hey, it's okay. It's all right to make mistakes. It's all right to not necessarily know. I gave you my example of I didn't know I was going to go into the Border Patrol and spend my whole career there. But once I got in, I fell in love with it. You want to do something that you're passionate about. And when you find it, you're going to know it. When you find that thing that just really resonates, and it's okay. You may try something that you think is going to be that, and it may not be. And that's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to learn from those. And it's okay to think, hey, maybe I want to do this. And then ultimately you change your mind on it. But I do believe that you know when you know, and it will hit you, and you'll know that you're passionate about it, and this is what you want to do. And always do something you're passionate about, because I will tell you, work's hard. You know this. Life is hard, but it's a lot easier if you love what you do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, finding that passion. It's on my bucket list. Um, But Chief Provost, thank you so much for giving back and taking the time to mentor me and all the others who will watch this interview. Do you have any last words of wisdom to share?
Well, I would just say to all the women and the men out there, don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Do the best you can do at whatever it is that you choose to do, and you're going to go far. So thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you today, though. I've enjoyed this.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule too. I'm so honored that you would.